So after watching this video, you will become a pro at settling debts. Some debts you're going to be able to settle for pennies to the dollar. Some debts you may be able to remove as well too. And I'm going to show you the tricks of the trade that I've learned as a credit consultant running IMAX Credit Repair firm for over 20 years. We've dealt with all the major banks, all the different collection companies as well too. And this video applies to collections and charge-off accounts. Now keep in mind, collection accounts are accounts that are being reported by a collection company on the credit report. And charge-offs are accounts that are being reported on your credit report by the original creditor. So let's get into this, starting with deletion letter we got from Midland Credit. So this is proof that our process works. So if you could see what I've underlined in red is that this client of ours had a $18,000 debt with American Express that was sold to Midland Credit. And if you go down to the end of the article, you're going to see that they are agreeing to waive the $18,000 and delete the account from the credit report as well. So how did we get there? I'm going to show you this in a broken down process. But the first thing you need to know about credit in general is the statute of limitations. Now, for those that are not seeing the video, there should be a link that you could click on to see the exhibits that I'm showing. So here's what the statute of limitations is, and I'm going to explain to you why this is important. The statute of limitations pertains to how long a creditor can sue you for a debt on. So that's what it is. The meaning is you as a debtor could be sued for by a bank or a collection company. Now, every state has different laws pertaining to the statute. So let's look at the state of Alabama. So on written contracts, it's 6 years. So that means that if you fall behind on a debt and stop paying it today, if I live in Alabama, I could be sued for up to 6 years on written contracts. On open-ended accounts, which is credit cards or utility bills that you may have started on the phone without signing a contract, it's 3 years. Now in my state of California, it's 4 years, pretty much across the board for credit cards, which are open-ended accounts, and for written contracts as well. So this is important to know. So it tells you, pertaining to the debt, what type of leverage does the creditor have. Now, let's move to this debt settlement chart that I'm showing. And again, if you don't see this, if you're just listening to this, there should be a link to reference this article and this chart. Now, I've basically broken this down based on the amount of the debt that is owed. And again, we're talking of collections and charge-offs. So let's just say if I owe somebody $1,000, and if it's a charge-off or a collection, well, generally on smaller debts, they're not likely to settle for a lot less money. If you're lucky, $1,000 debt may come down to 70% if the debt's really, really old, but generally, 80 to 90% for debts under $1,000, is average. Again, if I owe somebody $200, they're not going to bring it down to $100. Sometimes they may not even negotiate because it's such a small amount as such. Now, let's move to debts between $1,000 to $3,000. So let's just say if I owe somebody $3,000, well, then, 60 to 70% is a reasonable amount that one can offer. If the debt is past the statute of limitations, then what happens is that you have more leverage on negotiating with them at that particular point, right? They know that they can't sue you, or if the debt is several years old, meaning like maybe 5 or 6 years old, because debts only stay on your credit report for 7 years and it's scheduled to fall off sometime soon. So that may give you more leverage. What if you have a debt that is between $5,000 and $20,000? So let's just assume $15,000. Then, a reasonable settlement would be 30 to 50%. If you're dealing with a collection that's on your credit report, then they're likely to settle for a lot less. Why? Because collection companies buy debts. And keep in mind, there are two types of collection companies. One that collect on behalf of the original creditor, and the other one that actually have bought the debt and for their own interests. Now, the way to find out if a collection company's bought the debt is you will see the collection company report the account on your credit report. Then that means that the collection company's bought the debt. But if you don't see the collection company reporting the account on your credit report, and you see the original creditor reporting the account on the credit report, that means that the original creditor still has the debt. So that kind of like determines what type of settlement that you could get. I feel that collection companies that buy debts, because they buy it for cents to the dollar. So if you have a $15,000 debt, they're probably going to buy it for about 5%. So maybe $750 is what they paid for it, even less than that. So their starting point for negotiation or to break even is going to be a lot lower as opposed to if the debt was with the original creditors. If I owed $15,000 to Citibank, they're not going to give me, that's kind of like what their loss is. And they have to recuperate most of it, as opposed to if that $15,000 debt was bought by Midland Credit for cents to the dollar, right? So that's where you're going to get better settlements as such. So it's not likely that a creditor who you owe $15,000 will settle for $1,000 most of the time, but 30 to 50%, 30 odd percent for a collection company is good. And again, look at the statute of limitations. So when you're on the phone with a creditor or a collection company, you could bring this up that I know that you can't sue me on this debt, but out of my own good accord, I want to settle this debt. So, and for $20,000, again, 30 to 50% is fine as well too. The thing to keep in mind is that there are exceptions to this rule. What if you've already been sued? Well, then guess what? The creditor already has leverage on you. They've already done the hard work and already did the investments. If they sued you already, guess what happens? If you go apply for a house or try to buy a house, the lender will tell you to pay off that debt first before you could get approved for that home. Or if you already own a home and you've been sued by a collection company and a creditor, they're not going to settle with you because they know that if you go try to sell that house or if you try to refi, they'll want you to, the lender will require that the debt be paid off. So therefore, you're not going to be able to negotiate a hugely favorable deal if they've already sued you. Now, keep in mind that a charge-off account, if it's showing on your credit report, it will not be deleted from the credit report, even if you settle with them. Banks are not allowed to delete the accounts in exchange for payment. However, collection companies, if they're reporting the account on your credit report, may agree to delete. Most of the time, companies like Midland, I've seen them delete upon payment. So that's one thing that you could find out from them if they do or not. I recommend recording phone calls when you're talking to them and getting such guarantees. There's another exception in scenario 2, which is if your debt's not been charged off. Now, for instance, if I owe Bank of America some money, I've been making payments on it. Well, until I stop making payments for up to 6 months and my account's charged off, they're not going to offer me any type of deal. So on the principal, that is. So the debt has to be charged off with the original bank if you're dealing with a bank for them to come down on the amount. Now, here's a sample script that I use as well too, or my clients that I've coached to use. Now, what you're going to find out is that you want to basically make sure that the lender doesn't think that you have all the money in the world to settle with them. So I've found that people that say, hey, I'm borrowing money from family, I'm going to file bankruptcy, but I could use that money to pay you instead. Lenders are more likely to settle with them for a lesser amount because they know that if the client filed bankruptcy, they will get nothing. And the lender believes that the client doesn't have any money. So therefore, they're not going to go ahead and squeeze them for a whole lot of funds as such. And make sure that you only call once you have a lump sum settlement amount available. Don't basically set up a payment program because guess what? Until the final payment is made, they're not going to delete it from your credit report. So where you could hire us is if a collection company is wanting to settle for more than $2,000, then we could help out. Most of the time, we could always get collections removed. If they want more than $2,000, we could help out and get a lesser settlement. In the event that a charge-off is not being removed from the credit report, that's where we could come in as well too, or even if a collection's not being removed. So anyways, you can email us at help@imaxcredit.com. That's help@imaxcredit.com. Hope this video has been helpful.